Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. The Streaming Enderman here, back again, after a very long while. And my goodness, it has been a while. Easily 4 months, approaching 5. And some of you who haven't heard have probably been wondering where I was, and those who do know are probably wondering when I'm coming back. Well, a little bit of a explanation before I start the video. Well, the video has already been started. Before I begin the review, I should say. Now, you're wondering why I disappeared. And the reason is YouTube didn't really like some of my older videos. Now, I'm sure my long-term reviewers would have remembered the Denix videos. And apparently Denix, which are non-firing replica weapons of history, and are completely for show, display, reenactment, and nothing more, apparently YouTube did not like those. And because of that, my channel had received a bunch of strikes. And the reason it took me so long to make a video is because I was afraid by making another video, something would have gone wrong with the video and then I would have received another strike. I know that's paranoid of me, but I'm often paranoid. Anyways, so it took me this long to get rid of at least one of them. I think I might even still have a strike remaining. I'm not sure about that. I can check, but that's aside from the fact one of them's gone. And yeah, it's very unfortunate if you're a subscriber to me because of my Denix videos and they were my most popular viewer base. Unfortunately, I apologize. I had to get rid of all of my Denix videos. I know. That's unfortunate. It's sad, but it's the way the cookie crumbles here. The cookie doesn't need to crumble, and it makes no sense why it is, but it crumbled nonetheless. So, yes, unfortunately, the Denix videos may not be back for quite some time. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but in the meantime, what am I doing here? Well, aside from just making this video so that the people who are subscribed to me aren't thinking I'm dead or something happened to me. No, I'm well. I'm alive. I'm okay. But there are two reasons I'm making this video. One is to discuss a knife, because why else would I be here? And two is to advertise the channel that I have been very active on lately. And I made this channel in case anything ever happened to this channel, and it's kind of become my primary source for my knife videos. So I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can go and check it out, but what am I doing here today? Well, two knives. Two knives you may recognize. Right here. These, for my long-term reviewers, are Arthur Wright & Son Ettricks. Now, there's something a little strange about these. You're probably thinking one of these is that ebony one I reviewed quite some time ago. Well, no, it isn't. Or no, they aren't. This is the ebony Ettrick that I reviewed over a year ago. Now, what are these? Well, these are two knives that I am so immensely excited to talk about. These are Ettricks, just like the one you just saw. However, they have bog oak for the handles. Now, bog oak, as some of you may know, is my favorite handle material. Undisputed favorite handle material. And seeing this, and seeing it on my favorite traditional knife pattern, possibly of all, I had no choice. Well, I did have a choice, but I went ahead and bought two of these from the famous Sheffield shop. I don't know if they still have them. Don't quote, oh, there goes my lighting. Don't quote me on that, but I found these, and they were 48 GBP a piece, so a bit more pricey than the average Wright, but, you know, special handle. And, yeah, I thought I'd do a little welcome back review on them. And you will see a video on my other channel, what I kind of thought of doing, and this may be a foolish idea, and you can tell me that it is in the comments, and I'll probably agree with you. But because I have two of them, and the fit and finish is actually a fair bit different on the two of them, there are some similarities, but there are also some differences here. What I'm going to do is, for the people who are subscribed to my old channel but not my new one, you'll be able to see this video. And for those who are only subscribed to my new channel, pardon me, I'm going to review the second one over there. So we're going to do this in two parts. Instead of just talking about both of them, I'm going to start with this one. And this is the one that I'll review on this channel. And if you want to see the review on the second one, which will be different, there will be different fit and finish differences, I suppose. I mean, they're completely different knives, even though they're of the same model. But that one will be on my new channel. So, again, I'll leave a link to that. But in the meantime, enough with me just talking about, well, nothing. And let's have a look at this knife. This is a grail of mine. I need to stress that. This is one of the knives I am the most excited for. And when I received this, I was so incredibly excited, even though it's a pattern I already have two of. In fact, on my new channel, I reviewed a rosewood version of the Ettrick. So I have rosewood, ebony, and now two bog oaks. So that means I have 4 Ettricks from Wright. And even though I already have 2 of these knives, I'm still incredibly excited to discuss this particular model. And yeah, let's start off with the blade. C70 carbon steel, Warncliffe, as always. Carbon steel backspring of the same variety. Brass liners and pins with a nickel-silver bolster. And we have bog oak for the handles here. Bog oak is, of course, a very interesting handle. It's not the natural color of the oak, although it is naturally made by leaving the oak logs in a peat bog for anywhere from a couple hundred to a few thousand years. And this one, I believe, is only a few hundred years old, as opposed to my Michael May, which is about 5,000, if I remember correctly. So you can get varying degrees of age in your bog oak, but this one is still very nice. It's the acids from the peat bog that interact with the grain of the oak, creating this deep, dark color, as opposed to the usual kind of lighter tone of oak, almost similar to this table. And I am very pleased with the grain pattern here. Beautiful, beautiful style. Again, you have that very short, I believe, 1.5-inch blade. I will double check that. I do have a ruler. This knife is UK legal, I know that. Okay. The blade, with the unsharpened bit, comes in at about just over 2¼ inches. And the cutting edge is exactly 2. So a bit more than 1.5, but 2-inch blade, 2.5 or 2¼ if you want to be generous. But no matter which way you look at this, this is a UK legal knife. Overall length is, I'll just lay it down flat on the table. You're looking at just a bit over 6 inches overall. And my goodness, Alice is making an appearance. That's not common. The handle on its own is about 3¾ inches. So this is a very small knife, all things considered. And yeah, it's very small, lightweight, would be very easy to carry in a 5th pocket or a breast pocket. Again, the blade, carbon steel, pretty simple caliber. It's not particularly great with the edge retention. It doesn't have amazing corrosion resistance, but it will get the job done. Easy and quick to sharpen. Holds an edge for a decent amount of time, but you can use a shaving strop, a leather strop, to sharpen this. You don't even need an actual machine or even a stone. This steel is on the softer side, which can actually help when it comes to sharpening it, because it means that while it does dull a little faster, it is quite easy to sharpen. So, you know, good all around. I know some people are steel fanatics and they demand the highest grade steel, but, you know, this is a basic traditional pocket knife. You're not going to be using this to cut down a tree, as I like to say. But, yeah. No half stops. The pull weight comes in at Ooh, I'd say about a 7. Let me try that again. Yeah, that's a 7. I've only had this knife for a couple days now, and granted, the springs often loosen up a little over time, but compared to my first Ettrick, which is about a, I guess I'd also say that's a 7. So the average Ettrick spring tension is about 7. The rosewood, also about a 7. And the other bog oak Ettrick, this one I'd probably rate an 8. This one is a lot stronger, but again, that's for another video. But yeah, nice strong spring. The blade stamp is different than the ebony version. This one says Made in Sheffield. I know some people do not like this stamp because it doesn't display the maker's mark, but I don't have a problem with it. It's okay, it's well done, you can read it, but the original stamp on my first Ettrick was very, very crammed. I don't think they use this one anymore for that very reason. This one's A. Wright & Son Limited, Sheffield, England. But yeah, this is the ebony. Again, a lot smoother and shinier than the bog oak, with a more closed grain pattern. But same steel, same construction, same everything. Again, the little bolster, the pins, which are flush. Transitions are beautiful. Gapping? There's a little bit of gapping going on this side. Nothing too major, but... oh, interesting. That is very weird. So I just held it up to the light, and shockingly, I can't see through. Normally, that's a good way to tell if your knife has gapping. If you hold it up to the light and you can see the light shining through, that means you have some pretty noticeable gapping. For example, on this one, I held this area up to the sun, and I could indeed see through it. Whereas this one, which you'd think would be worse, I actually can't. So maybe those aren't gaps. Maybe that's just the mark left behind when you assemble the knife. Because sometimes I've seen the pieces of brass can fall out and leave this little indent, even though it's not a full gap. It's just where the pieces of brass have fallen out. I know I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, but the simplest way to put it is when I hold it up to the light and don't see any light shining through, that kind of negates the idea that there are actual gaps here. Let's see the back. How well is that done? Again, you can see there seems to be some kind of gap back there, but it's far from the worst. I've seen way worse gapping from the likes of, say, Rough Rider or Case or other brands that are more conventional. Blade play is non-existent, which is good because blade play bothers me quite a lot. Centering, a little off to the knife's left and your right. Pun intended. And you can see the grind is fair enough. It's a little uneven, but one thing I will say, Arthur Wright has been noticeably improving the sharpness of their knives. For example, and again, I'm going to have no hair left on my arm. This knife, and I have not sharpened this whatsoever, this knife is indeed, if my camera will ever focus, good grief. There we are. It is indeed shaving sharp. Now, that is a massive improvement because everyone, whoever had reviewed an Arthur Wright knife, whoever talked about them, the consistent complaint that everyone had, and even I had, they came out of the box, or out of the plastic bag, completely blunt. And at the very best, I'd say they were dull. Maybe not blunt, but dull. This is shaving sharp. And I'm sure it's not as sharp as some knives have been, but compared to what Wright used to do, this is really good. So I'm actually impressed there. Now, the one flaw that this knife has, and this is a flaw, to me at least. If you look at the knife from here, you might notice that the blade is a little offset, right? But when you look at it from here, you can see just how offset that is. That is a warped blade. Now, a lot of reviewers don't talk about this. They talk about what a knife blade looks like in the closed position and how straight it is, but they almost never discuss how offset the blade can be in the open position. This one, as you can see, is quite a bit off. Now, here are a couple other Ettricks. You can see this one's not as bad, but it still has the same issue to an extent. This is the rosewood model. The ebony model, my first Ettrick, is almost a little bit to the left, but again, this one's a little bit better. However, the one Ettrick I have that's perfect is the other bog oak version, and this is the one I'll do on my other channel. But identical knives, this one does not have that flaw. So it's not enough to make me dislike the knife, far from it. I still adore this thing, and I will probably use it. But it is still worth noting that when you're buying a knife, even of the exact same style, design, model, and everything else, you can get changes in the fit and finish. For example, this one versus the other one. Another thing is that my other Ettrick has a different stamp and a smaller nail nick. And these are, again, the exact same. So I think that my number one suggestion to Arthur Wright, and I doubt they'll actually see this, but I think that my number one suggestion for you is that they need more consistency. The knives are good. I know Arthur Wright can make a really good knife. I've seen them, I've handled them, I own them. But then they can also make a pretty mediocre knife. And don't get me wrong, I will still continue to buy these. I love their tradition, I love the history, I love the style. Everything about these, they just speak to me. But tragically, they can be a bit inconsistent, even down to using different stamps. That's not a really good thing. I mean, consistency is key when it comes to making knives, or really any product. So my main bit of advice for Arthur Wright and Son is to strive for a tad bit more consistency in their quality. And don't get me wrong, this is not a criticism. They've been doing much better than they used to. Even back in 2021, I had a knife from Arthur Wright that broke. And then I got a replacement. That one broke too. They have fixed that problem now. I have not had a single Arthur Wright knife with that flaw since then. So even in the span of a couple years, they have been making huge improvements, and I'm happy to see it, because I like these knives, and I think that a lot of people who can appreciate a traditional folder can as well. So thank you very much for watching this ramble of mine. Again, this is the lesser of the two, and I guarantee I will be much more excited discussing the other Ettrick on my other channel, because that one is a grail. It's absolutely a grail. Perfect fit and finish, just wonderfully made. That one, oh boy, that'll be a video. But in the meantime, sorry that this is a very random and out of the blue response and return, I should say. But you know, I'm kind of happy to be back, and I want to put this out there. I will warn you though, this channel may be reserved for other things in the future aside from reviews. My reviews, especially on knives, will stick to the Knife Raven. That's going to be my consistent reviewing channel. You might see the occasional review over here of a knife, or I considered maybe doing watch reviews, despite only having 2 of them. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. Again, very abrupt return, but here I am. I'm still around. But click that link in the description and go to my second channel. I think you'll enjoy it, particularly if you've been wondering where I've been this whole time. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. This has been the Arthur Wright and Son Bog Oak Ettrick. And this is the Streaming Enderman, as always, signing off. Goodbye.